Hello, dear friends. I welcome everyone who is watching Sotnik-TV. Today is Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, and the weekly news show is on. It's 8 p.m. in Moscow and we're streaming live. Today I've invited another expert to help me sort out the news for the past week. He is a screenwriter, author and popular blogger who is residing in Los Angeles. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Leon Weinstein. Hello, Leon. Hello, thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure to speak with you and your audience. Let us go a little politically incorrect. In case anyone gets offended, I apologize for this in advance, but such is the question that I have received. I am a politically incorrect person. I find my skin color perfect. Anyway, let me cite the question from one of our viewers as it is. Artur Svaleevs is asking the following. Good day, I lived in the USA for 3 years in the early 90s. Since my English wasn't fluent enough, I was forced to work for minimum wage. In an effort to move up, I changed many jobs as it was easy to find a minimum wage job back then. Sometimes I worked alongside African Americans and was amused to see the way those guys worked. I was a part of the Polish construction team that was re-roofing a factory in Chicago. It was hard work in the burning sun. Every time I gave my spine a little break, our foreman yelled that I wasn't there to rest. Eventually I lashed out and asked him why he never said a word to the Negroes who were goofing off all day long. So Poles were simply amused with my courage. This is just one example. When talking to Americans later, I asked how they were going to solve a race problem when they weren't able to openly discuss it due to their self-censorship. Such is the question of our viewer. Thank you for this question. I sure understand and share the idea that was expressed by the viewer. During the past 20 years, this side of American culture changed dramatically. Back in the day, it was impolite to say that a particular race somehow differed or was any better than other races. It was considered racism, so anyone saying that could get spit in his face and kicked out of his job for being a racist. No student would talk to a tutor who was known to be a racist. But if one proclaims that all lives matter in a modern university, everyone will yell at him, saying that he is a subhuman who doesn't understand that black life is more valuable than others. You're now demonstrating the footage of the US cops allegedly doing something wrong. In fact, during the 2 past weeks, the police finally began responding accordingly to what the black people have been doing in the USA. African Americans were told that everyone owes them and they can get whatever they wish. They suck in studying, but it's not their fault. They're simply not allowed to study. 78% of their children are born in families without a father. But it's the government's fault. The people who come to the US from Korea, Vietnam, Russia, Israel, and the rest of the countries deal with their problems. But the problems of African Americans are to be solved by whites who are portrayed ugly for undermining the rights of blacks or their ancestors. There's an Antifa movement, which is a fascist organization that declares to be fighting against fascism. Their leader told 2 days ago that they were looting from luxury stores and shattering storefronts because they had the right for doing so. Such is my answer to this question. What is your take on the future of the riots ongoing in the US? Those riots break out from time to time, which troubles the citizens. Before the show, you told me that some of your friends even obtained firearms. First of all, there are no people among the wide range of my acquaintances who wouldn't get a gun for the past 6 months. For example, my family bought our second gun. Unfortunately, new riots are coming to the US. Those will break out on the night of the 3rd to the 4th of November. Despite any numbers that are demonstrated to the audience, Donald Trump is going to win the upcoming election. Believe it or not, but we live around here and we know better. Trump is going to win, and the following setup is planned in several states where the Democrats managed to bring about postal voting. Whether people want this or not, their ballots will be mailed in. Several states have allowed calculating the results for 3 days after the voting is over. So a huge number of ballots will be mailed in after the voting is over. The Democrats hired a huge number of lawyers in each county of each state. The morning after the election day, those lawyers will take legal actions to dispute Trump's victory in their region, so that the officials can't declare the winner. The Democratic Party members, including Hillary Clinton, ordered Joe Biden not to accept his defeat by no means. There are two ways one can lose the presidential election in the US. He can either accept his defeat, or the US polling committee needs to declare that the results are counted and there are no complaints to the court regarding this matter. That's when the final score is announced and the winner is declared. So Joe Biden is not officially accepting his defeat, while the Democratic Party is applying to courts in every region where Trump wins. But what troubles me the most is that they're preparing a huge number of colored people secretly armed with weapons smuggled from Mexico and China. The police have already arrested a couple of double-bottomed containers with guns, grenades and body armor. So those involved in the recent city riots will now take arms to give hell to their compatriots. People will need to accept Biden as their new president to put an end to this mayhem. Let me cite another question from one of our viewers. We live in the state of Washington and the police here doesn't deal with small-time car or garage robberies. The police may not appear on the call of hooliganism and so on. People shoplift openly as they know that no consequences are coming. We're shocked by this. Leon, why do you think this is happening? May our state be too tolerant and liberal? This is not what we thought of the police work and citizens' responsibility in the US. Back in the day, America used to handle the flow of immigrants so that everyone would initially become a part of its culture. But those who come in search of a better life now seem to consider themselves allowed to behave as they wish. They suppose that everyone around owes them. Will the USA handle the situation in the future, as many think that the country is no longer as it used to be? The old culture, trust and safety standards vanish from this country. Do you think that the USA changed, or may a person's abode, financial situation and education be the reason? There's a red line, and after crossing it there's no way back, no matter how hard one tries. We haven't yet crossed this red line. The past 100 days have shown that no city under the members of the Republican Party was burned or somehow damaged by rioters. It means that order can be restored by the city officials with a strong political commitment to stop riots, arrest the rioters and maybe cause harm to those who were assaulting people. There are only 20 cities that have been under the Democrats for decades. And that's where riots mostly break out. The state of Washington, as well as Washington, D.C., is the kingdom of the Democrats. Both places are filled with the lumpen and bureaucrats. The majority of those supporting the Democrats are lumpen who only receive aid from the state budget without contributing to it. In case the Republicans come to power, they will no longer provide as much aid as there used to be. So the democratic states need to replace their officials with someone willing to support the police. After the chiefs are replaced, the police will get back to serving people rather than standing aside watching how citizens are being robbed. So it's not about the USA unable to handle this issue. There's a complot by the Democrats aiming to replace President Trump with their man. Unfortunately, they may go too far and let the genie out of the bottle. Thank you for being with us today. I hope to see you as our guest in the future. Make sure to watch Sotnik-TV.